Oh yeah, we're in double digits. It's episode 11 of the Dadcast pod. You're very welcome along. You can get us by email, dadcast@offtheball.com. We are Dadcast pod on Twitter. You can just use the hashtag Dadcast. Basically, we have survived this long. Who knows? Could go either way. Dave, welcome back.
Thank you.
Adrian, welcome. I mean, you're kind of back. And there's an empty chair here because somebody's doing Christmas stuff. Nathan, in his Christmas jumper. Show us your Christmas jumper, Nathan. I know this is a podcast for a lot of people, but it's also, hey!
Whoa!
That is like, wow, that's huge.
Who is that with Santa? Is that Noel Edmonds and Santa?
That is Noel Edmonds.
Who is it?
It's Jesus Christ.
It's Jesus.
It's the big fella.
Bloody hell.
You got a religious Christmas jumper.
Well, I presume it's a piss take. I bought it on at 12 pubs about 3 years ago at about midnight. I don't think it's actually endorsing the Catholic Church.
They're probably going to cut.
Is.
That's how they.
Maybe it's a sales pitch.
Exactly. They go around the 12 pubs drunkenly going, here's an old Christmas jumper with a bit of Jeebus on it.
What?
Sign up.
50 quid, please. And you're like, yeah, 50 quid. I'll have 5 of them.
What Christmas stuff are you up to today?
I'm at my children's primary school's Christmas fair. So I have been a very important part of the community here now. I am on the Parent Teachers Association.
Woo!
So I have to volunteer for this shit.
I really hope they're listening.
That is the drop price from this episode.
Are there any Twitter handles? What's the name of the group? Are there any Twitter handles for the school that we can hit them up? Whoever's like doing the tweeting of the show, please highlight that comment.
Do not. No, I'm very happy to do it. Listen, lads, you got to get back to you got to help support your kid's school.
You're backtracking in a way
money.
that leaves my pregnancy snoring backtracking in.
No, I'm very happy. Place. I'm very happy to do it. It got me out of going into the office for the morning, you know.
No, okay. So, what do you have to do? What jobs are there? And how did you get co-opted onto the PTA?
Somebody just approached me and said, "Oh, you should come on the PTA." I was like, "Yeah, sure." They were like, "Next year." And then next year suddenly came around very, very quickly. And I didn't actually make the meeting. So I presumed I wasn't going to be elected because I wasn't there. And 4 people went for election. There was only 3 spots. I wasn't even there. And still, somehow, I ended up on it.
Well, it's not every week they get an opportunity to co-opt a celebrity onto their association.
Mayo's finest.
Well, this is exactly it. So now I have to sell calendars. I'm literally walking around going up to parents going, please give me €10.
God, Jesus, what part of the world do you live in that they're selling calendars? Are they normally like $2.50?
What? Should it cost £7 to buy? It's only a very small profit margin on these things.
Yeah, so it's a calendar with the kids on them, is it?
Yeah, so each class has their own picture on it.
Yeah. Okay, so we did that a couple of years back, but for whatever reason it didn't continue. I don't know. It's obviously quite a lot of work, right? This is the thing. The PTA seems like a lot of work.
It's far more work. It's
profit
one
margin
of these
is shite,
WhatsApp groups that's never ending. Why is the profit margin shite?
£3.
Well, otherwise, maybe they're not like. Yeah, but you can't sell them for £15.
Oh yeah, we're in double digits. It's episode 11 of the Dadcast pod. You're very welcome along. You can get us by email, dadcast@offtheball.com. We are Dadcast pod on Twitter. You can just use the hashtag Dadcast. Basically, we have survived this long. Who knows? Could go either way. Dave, welcome back.
Thank you.
Adrian, welcome. I mean, you're kind of back. And there's an empty chair here because somebody's doing Christmas stuff. Nathan, in his Christmas jumper. Show us your Christmas jumper, Nathan. I know this is a podcast for a lot of people, but it's also, hey!
Whoa!
That is like, wow, that's huge.
Who is that with Santa? Is that Noel Edmonds and Santa?
That is Noel Edmonds.
Who is it?
It's Jesus Christ.
It's Jesus.
It's the big fella.
Bloody hell.
You got a religious Christmas jumper.
Well, I presume it's a piss take. I bought it on at 12 pubs about 3 years ago at about midnight. I don't think it's actually endorsing the Catholic Church.
They're probably going to cut.
Is.
That's how they.
Maybe it's a sales pitch.
Exactly. They go around the 12 pubs drunkenly going, here's an old Christmas jumper with a bit of Jeebus on it.
What?
Sign up.
50 quid, please. And you're like, yeah, 50 quid. I'll have 5 of them.
What Christmas stuff are you up to today?
I'm at my children's primary school's Christmas fair. So I have been a very important part of the community here now. I am on the Parent-Teachers Association.
Woo!
So I have to volunteer for this shit.
I really hope they're listening.
That is the drop quote from this episode.
Are there any Twitter handles? What's the name of the group? Are there any Twitter handles for the school that we can hit them up? Whoever's like doing the tweeting of the show, please highlight that comment.
Do not. No, I'm very happy to do it. Listen, lads, you got to get back to you got to help support your kids' school.
You're backtracking
Trying
in
to
a
get
way
money.
that leaves my pregnancy snoring backtracking in.
No, I'm very happy.
Place.
I'm very happy to do it. It got me out of going into the office for the morning.
No, okay. So, what do you have to do? What jobs are there? And how did you get co-opted onto the PTA?
Somebody just approached me and said, "Oh, you should come on the PTA." I was like, "Yeah, sure." They were like, "Next year." And then next year suddenly came around very, very quickly. And I didn't actually make the meeting. So I presumed I wasn't going to be elected because I wasn't there. And 4 people went for election. There was only 3 spots. I wasn't even there. And still somehow I ended up on it.
Well, it's not every week they get an opportunity to co-opt a celebrity onto their association.
Mayo's finest.
Well, this is exactly it. So now I have to sell calendars. I'm literally walking around going up to parents going, please give me €10.
God, Jesus, what part of the world do you live in that they're selling calendars? Like, are they normally like $2.50?
What? Should it cost £7 to buy? It's only a very small profit margin on these things.
Yeah, so it's a calendar with the kids on them, is it?
Yeah, so each class has their own picture on it.
Yeah. Okay, so we did that a couple of years back, but for whatever reason it didn't continue. I don't know. It's obviously quite a lot of work, right? This is the thing. The PTA seems like a lot of work.
Here,
it's far more work. It's
profit
one
margin
of these
is shite,
WhatsApp groups that's never ending. Why is the profit margin shite?
£3.
Otherwise, maybe they're not like. Yeah, but you can't sell them for £15.
Well, I'm just saying.
There was a lot of debate, I can tell you, about the pricing structure around this. And I've already had several people having a pop at me because they're too expensive.
Yeah, well, you're not making
it's not like
money.
We're pocketing the money.
It's a wasted exercise.
Bloody hell.
This is interesting that you're actually so willing to be completely truthful and honest about the...
Do you know this? You know we started recording, right?
I wonder, is this a fairly common experience? So far, we've managed not to be involved just through different timings of work and stuff, but it's coming, I'm sure.
I don't actually mind being involved. It's a good thing to do.
Beep.
That was the shortest sentence you've ever spoken in your life. Is there somebody with a gun to your head? So what else you have to do? Tell us what else is on this. Like, you got to show up for meetings, you got to be in WhatsApp groups.
Yeah, several WhatsApp groups. There's a lot of messages. I went straight from committee member to secretary.
Ooh.
So I've also had to do the minutes of the meetings, which is fun as well. But I don't think there's a huge amount. It could be as big or as small as you want, the PTA. We have to organise like social nights. And so if anyone's any good ideas that I can bring to the meetings as my own, I'd really appreciate it.
Are
Something
there
that's a surefire money earner.
Any planning weekends away in exotic locations?
No, there are some Christmas drinks that I presume the funds just rest in our account for a little while with that.
Hang on a second now. So you're going to have Christmas drinks and you're probably going to put all the £3 profit from each of the calendars in towards buying you pints?
Hardly. Ooh.
Well, the money has to come from somewhere.
Is that one of your own kids?
No. One of the great things of the Christmas fair is that they have a bottle stand where they're selling cans of Fanta and Coke for like 20 cents to the kids. And they all go absolutely lula.
Again,
and, they're sent back. They're sent back to their classrooms for the next 3 hours, having just had a couple of bottles of Fanta.
Okay, so the Christmas fair is like a few hours during the school day. That's a good idea. And then it's over and everybody goes home. Because the ones that I've seen have been Sundays. And so that's like quite a big thing. And
this is on like till midday. And all the parents come in and there's loads of toys. So we literally cleared out our house of all the crap toys that we didn't want anymore, and then you hope that somebody else buys them for 50 cents, and our stock is replenished with all the crap our kids have bought.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's like, it's
a never-ending cycle of
that carousel.
Bad toys.
You can go to prison for that kind of stuff. Right, it looks like you're busy though, so maybe we should let you go.
I'm really busy. Really busy right now.
We're going to start talking about our swearing children and your own.
I have one story of swearing children, which actually one of our colleagues is to blame for. About must be maybe 3 years ago, so Zach would have been 3 at the time. I came into Off the Ball on December 23rd, I think it was, for 2 minutes. Just Richie McCormick, I'm going to call him out in this, was there. Made a little comment to me as I walked in. Didn't think much about it. We're at home that night. I think it was actually Christmas Eve, maybe. So my family is there. My wife's family is there. Everybody's there, sitting around the fire, watching a movie. And Zach goes, "For fuck's sake." I'm like, weirdly, everybody instantly turns to me as the guilty party. But then I remembered, when I was in the office earlier, Richie McCormick had turned around and said, "For fuck's sake." And somehow he had picked up on this and just used it himself. It was just random. There was no actual sense of something that was annoying him that he needed to say this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was as bad as it got. But my language at times, my wife isn't particularly happy with it.
So you haven't toned down your swearing?
No, I have. Clearly I try not to swear when they're around, but sometimes you just can't help it.
I mean, yeah, I've definitely, I only say Jesus.
Like I think it does last. Like I have a memory of being a kid and my father watching a soccer match and calling someone a wanker. And I think it was the first time I ever heard the term. And I was like, ooh, there's something about that term that
I like.
Clearly, I shouldn't have heard, but that I will use in future.
Oh yeah,
You've heard it quite a bit since then, Nathan. Let's face it.
Yes. Yeah. Well. McIntyre's laughing at.
I love the way. By the way, there's going to absolutely be. So you're on the phone to us from the fair, right? Nobody understands what's going on here. All they can hear is this guy, bearded guy in a Christmas jumper, around the side of the hall, going, "Fuck, wanker, shit, Jesus Christ!"
I'd say the guards are.
Rain, lads.
The guards are en route as we speak.
Enjoy your last week on the committee, by the way.
You're going to be the first secretary in the history to be ousted.
There'll be a heave against you.
Nathan, good stuff.
Yeah.
Enjoy your Christmas. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, so we have a bit of audio for you to play. This happened in my house a couple of weeks back. Just want to play this for you, and we'll come back off the back of it, and I'll explain what's going on. So, what are you looking for?
Spoon.
What?
My fork and spoon.
What?
My fork and spoon.
What?
My fork and spoon.
That's pretty clear to me.
That's my 4-year-old looking for her fork and spoon.
Sure she is.
Because it's dinner time and she wants to eat.
Did she get that there was a double meaning there? And
No, she didn't. She didn't get it at that point.
my mother used to do that during the remember the man Stan Volix, was it?
Yeah.
Romania?
No, he played for Holland.
Guy.
Yeah.
So she used to do a lot
George Hamilton loved it. Better explain.
Yeah.
It's like 92 euros.
Around about that,
It
yeah.
was George Hamilton, my mother, turns out, who would, my parents weren't big for cursing around the house, so here was an opportunity to go, "Bollocks! Oh, that bollocks!" And my dad's bollocks. Yeah, bollocks, oh. So she got there was a double entendre.
Yeah. Your man's a bit older than
She used to
my
be doing
4-year-old. So she's correctly learned how to pronounce fork since then. I think that, like me following around going and trying to lure her into saying fork and spoon quite quickly, I'm going to just learn how this goes. But we were sitting upstairs in her bedroom on Sunday morning, so it was obviously the end of the weekend, and she just turned around to me and goes, "My fucking googly." I was like, "What? I mean, you're not saying fork and spoon there." She goes, "Fucking googly." I'm like pissing myself laughing, going, "What's the third word?" And her ma comes in and has to do the straight face while I'm actually pissing myself laughing, and she's laughing as well, going, her saying the word is absolutely hilarious. And it just is. Like your children cursing, it turns out is way more funny than it should be.
What was she trying to say?
I don't know. She'd heard it in school.
What's she saying? Fucking.
Yeah, totally, 100%. Not like no ifs, ands, or buts. She had learned the word, was testing it out, road testing it, and was like seeing what's the combination here. And there was obviously something else that she'd learned the whole thing, but had forgotten the last bit. But got the middle bit right, 100% correct.
See, it's very difficult not to laugh.
It's impossible.
And then you're just enabling it
Oh.
by not coming down on it pretty hard first time around. We have already started to have one or two moments. We were in the car there last week, and my 4-year-old, I don't know whether it was myself or Nikki, but one of us got cut off by another driver. Like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And all we hear from the back is, "What did that gobshite do?" Much like Nathan's house, I was automatically fingered as the guilty party. And with very good reason. It is a word I use regularly. And it is now very difficult to unsay it. Well, it can't be unsaid. It is now part of his vocabulary. And what do? The problem was, when he said it, we cacked ourselves laughing. We thought it was the funniest thing we'd ever heard. And he was a bit curious as to why we were laughing on that occasion. And then he said it again during the week. And we both, again, couldn't contain ourselves.
It doesn't wear off. That's the best part about it. Is it like,
and we were we were in stitches laughing. And he, God love him, thought we were laughing at him. And he just burst into tears.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like we had to explain to him that he had made us laugh as opposed to us laughing at him.
Yeah.
And it was only then that I realised that I just have not done enough to curb my language. It's colourful at the best of times. I've never really tried to rein it in. I would never swear at like important meetings or on air, for example, for the most part. But we probably just haven't done enough over the years that he's been learning how to speak to make the difference that was required. Now, the F-bombs are very seldom.
Yeah.
But they have not been eradicated from our speech completely.
Yeah, most of ours at home have been. But then, like, you're listening to the Pogues and stuff comes up and my elders go, whoa, I'm going to sing this the next time.
But if you're, like, you know, if you cut yourself chopping a vegetable or burn your finger while cooking or whatever the case may be, it's very hard not to throw an old F-bomb in. And you may not be even aware that they're in the room, but they're in the next room. What was that, Daddy?
Yeah.
And then they try and repronounce it. What do you do?
But everything gets heard. So we were talking, it's Christmas time, obviously, and I didn't want a present that I was buying for my wife delivered to the house, so we had to use Parcel Motel. And so we were explaining, there was like a conversation about how this whole thing works. And mentioned the PIN number, and what do you have a code for? I was like, I have a code for my phone, so you can't get on it. It's like, so everything's getting heard. Every little bit is like, and it's like key new information that you're like, I'm going to use that.
You know, when we were expecting our first, it was around Christmas time, and we hadn't quite got towards the 12-week mark, and one of Nikki's nieces had overheard a conversation involving the fact that she was pregnant, and the next day in front of the extended family, like no one had been told, bar the most closest friends, confidants and relations, and there must have been 15 to 20 people in this room, and she stood in the middle of the room, pointed at Nikki and said, she has a baby in her tummy.
Jesus. Oh, that is tremendous.
Is this like after 10 weeks kind of thing? Like 10, 12 weeks?
We weren't ready. This was
what
not.
did she say?
Well, of course, the room just went absolutely silent, while all of those in the room who did not know just sat there waiting for the explanation to what had just been said. And this information had been discussed over breakfast the previous morning. And she was just going about her business, pottering about the house. We were completely unaware that she was even there. And here it comes out the next day. Everything is heard. Everything is processed. Well, what could you say? It couldn't be unsaid then.
No, that's not correct. That was somebody else.
The information was out. Thankfully, you know, everything worked out according to plan. But stuff is going to happen that you will say and do, and it'll be brought out, regurgitated by them, possibly the most embarrassing situation possible. Slight
Tangent to the language thing, that when we were expecting our first, I was in here one day and we were, I'd say a similar sort of a stage in terms of like any announcements or any of that sort of stuff, and I was discussing an upcoming event with one of our colleagues, and I was flicking through my phone we had taken some photographs of the venue we were at, and I was showing this colleague the photographs, and then I swiped onto a pregnancy test and she was like, and I was like, that's nothing. She was, outside of me and my wife, the next person that discovered. Yeah.
How soon in? Like, are you like, this is like week 4, week 5?
From recollection, sort of 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. It was early as hell. I was like, that never happened. Here's the next photograph. And for weeks, I'd say actually for a couple of months afterwards.
You didn't speak to her?
There'd just be a knowing look, and I'd go, we're not having this conversation, that never happened. And I wouldn't mind, but when I took the photograph, my wife was like, why are you taking the photograph? Somebody's going to see that. No, they're not. Don't be ridiculous. I'll never show that to anybody. And the same colleague still, whenever we bump into each other, is like, when we had the second kid, she was like, you should have told me. I should have been the first person to know. No.
Should have sent me a picture of the pregnancy test.
Right,
There was an email from a podcast subscriber called Ricky who wants to know about success stories or horror stories for holidays.
For language, right?
Oh,
we're not at the stage, anywhere near the stage yet. He's like barely cobbling sort of words together that aren't to do with stuff that he desperately wants to, either food or sort of tiredness or whatever. So we're nowhere near that stage yet, but I definitely have not curtailed my language in any way, shape or form. I am 100% gung-ho. My language is not great, and it's exactly the same as it ever was. Well, I don't have huge intentions to change that.
Okay.
I need to?
A lot of the damage is already done, because he is, he's soaking up everything, and.
What's the concern here? I mean, I don't mind that.
Well, the concern is that he's walking around play school effing and blinding at people.
And to the teachers.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Our middle one had obviously learned it from school. I was like, who said that? And she's got two friends who were actually called Carl and Lewis. I'm like, I find it...
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's like...
is there a correlation there?
Bert and Ernie. And she blames both of them always. It's like whatever, anything good happens, they're at the centre of it, and so clearly she's in love with them, but it's fine so long as she doesn't then turn around to the teacher and go, you're a fucking googly.
Yeah, that's the problem. Or if they're in their grandparents' house and Adam swipes a toy out of Dylan's hand and Dylan just turns around, what the F is your problem or something? That's not good.
If they're going to abuse a teacher, right, to use that example, and anyway they go, I don't like you very much, or you're without using bad language, and that's not something to do anyway. This is just the inclusion of bad language, which
it's far worse though if there's an F-bomb.
It is. Oh, teacher,
we all agree that it just a couple of letters, and it doesn't make any difference.
Does make a difference.
Why?
Because you don't want your
offended are you offended at any level? I already know the answer to this. There's somebody using the word fuck in your presence.
But if a 4-year-old swore at me, I might think twice about it.
Hang on though. So I obviously have had a potty mouth on air semi-regularly over the last 16 years.
All the time.
And there is a point though where you're in the car and you're listening to a podcast you've listened to for your entire life since podcasts have been out, and your kids are in the car and they get to the bit where they just talk the way we talk in real life, and you're like, oh no, and I can't turn it off because it's like, There's just a point where there's an association with the language with the loss of innocence. And you want to just protect them from... Because they will swear for the rest of their lives when they learn how to swear.
But it becomes a bigger thing too. I definitely, when been brought up, we, as I said, very rarely would have, in any sort of inexactitudes, used around the house in terms of So, and then suddenly when you're introduced into environments where these things start to crop up, you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. As opposed to, just say shit or fuck or whatever it is you want to say around the house.
I mean, I have actually had that conversation. I don't really care what you say, but there are people out there who will think less of you.
Oh, maybe that's the way to do it.
And it's up to you. You can make that decision whenever you want, but these words have meaning to some people still.
Well, there's definitely a part of that. Ordinarily I wouldn't be too worried about what other people think, but in this case I would be a little. It does not, in my opinion, doesn't reflect very well on the parents if, when the parents aren't around, the 4-year-old is going around swearing at people.
Yeah, if everybody else hears fork and spoon and thinks, oh, that's how you guys are teaching your 4-year-old, I'm like, well, not really. She's asking for a fork.
That is an exceptional
here's the thing.
Case.
If
the fork and spoon
Dylan
case
is playing football and scores a goal and goes, get fucking in, yes! So it's not like we're all talking about the use of language in a negative sense, whereas actually there might be times where they just drop in an F-bomb or a B-bomb or whatever you're having yourself bomb.
Not at 4 though.
But here's the thing.
There is a loss of innocence involved. I'm not equating it to some of the more important stages that they'll encounter as they get towards 10 and 12 and 14 and that all kids have to deal with. But at the same time, it takes away from their childlike nature to be swearing in a manner that an adult would.
And that's why it's funny. That's exactly why it's funny. Exactly. I think that's it. It's completely incongruous. And so, I don't know. I mean, you obviously don't want to protect them from the real world, but you kind of do as well, right? That's
until the last possible stage where you no longer have any control over. And once they're in primary school, and definitely, obviously, once they're heading towards secondary school, and as you say, they're on playing fields all around the county and coming across people from all sorts of backgrounds, they're just going to swear, and they will swear. Well, you're going to meet people from pretty much every walk of life, people that have parents who would never swear at all from one end of the week to the other, and people, you might be friends with someone whose parents are swearing all the time, like friends of your kids. But for the moment, I would rather he didn't develop a potty mouth at this stage.
What I'm trying to say is, and I appreciate that I've very limited experience of this yet, but if I see a kid swear, it's different if a kid is abusing somebody, right? And using swear words to compliment their abuse. I think that's a different thing. That's stop doing that. You shouldn't be speaking to people like that in terms of abusing them. But if it's oh,
look at this effing toy, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
yeah, but if they're incredibly likely to throw an F-bomb into their description of the toy, they're equally as likely to use it when they're trying to swipe somebody's hand away because they're trying to rob the aforementioned toy out of their grip. It's not the be-all and end-all. There are far more important things when it comes to being a parent.
We need the breaking news drop. Doodle-doo, doodle-doo. Nathan Murphy has gone on and has had a full investigation into the actual cost and the profit margin of the calendars. He's told that they actually only cost €4, so that's a healthy €6 markup.
Can I point out?
On the profit margin.
Can I point out that this guy is the fucking secretary of the committee and he doesn't know what... come on, guys.
And also, there is definitely cause for an investigation into embezzlement here, because he has, to this point, been selling calendars at a supposed €3 markup.
His profit margin was only £3.
Suddenly, as of today, he's no longer pocketing €3 for every calendar sold, and he actually has to give all the money over.
I imagine in my mind, you got to the end of that conversation with your kid where you went, listen, for me that's okay, but somebody else.
No, you can't.
You need to make your own choice.
You can't frame it like that.
And the child's response was, fuck that.
You can't frame it in a way that, it's fine with me, but your mother or your nana or, your teacher or whoever isn't impressive. No, it has to be, you have to circle the wagons in these things. You can't have a splinter group.
You can.
Well, what?
You totally can.
So what is the point in your wife, for example, telling your kids not to swear and then you kind of standing behind your wife going, it's actually all right, don't worry about it?
Well, because there's just a difference in opinion. It's that's fine.
Are you and your wife on different pages?
Well, we haven't had a conversation about it, but she managed to keep a straight face and then run out of the room and piss herself laughing. So it's I don't think we haven't had I don't think you want them to be as bad as I am, but what a hypocrite, in fairness. So I'm all for the hypocrisy parenting for now.
Yeah, I use words that I would never want my kids to use, even when they're adults.
But
just because you have a foul mouth, there's no harm in you wishing something better for your children.
And you fully understand the repercussions of your foul mouth.
Yeah.
But I suppose I'm coming from a place where I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
But there are people who do.
In the right context.
And several people I know are shocked at my language. And it's only after, you've swore. And Dave, I haven't actually. This isn't.
I haven't returned the swearing. It's good etiquette to return the swearing.
You must return the swearing. Otherwise, it's I'm out here on a swearing ledge.
And then when you're on the ledge,
weighed down by the weight of my own fucks.
When you're on that ledge, you're more inclined to keep edging towards the edge. You're not going to reverse from it. You're well, I better keep saying this because.
Well, I told myself down immediately and go, ooh. I read that social situation wrong. There's a first. Okay, so let's move on. There was some of the stuff that we wanted to talk about any hotel success stories, any holiday success stories, or any horror stories. We didn't get too many horror stories, to be honest, but I'm sure they're coming. One of the greatest forms of contraception that I ever had in my entire life was a trip to the airport one Friday morning where it was summertime and there was a couple and they had 3 children. And it put me off having kids for about 5 years because the kids, it was 7 a.m. So it was early in the day and they were going on holidays. It was clearly the holiday of a lifetime. The kids seemed to be going away for the first time ever. And the 3 of them were screaming and wild and messy and the type of child and situation in parenting that at the time I would have been, look at this, it's pretty shitty parenting from them. Whereas now I'd be like, oh my God, I wonder, could I go over and help there? Is there anything I can do? I'm really glad that's not me. There was definitely like I will never go on holidays on a plane with my kids. And, I'd say that it's not the worst idea to try to stay away from planes.
I've only done it once. We went to a wedding when Con was young enough that he wasn't sort of roaming around the place. I don't even think he was walking. I think he might have been like 6 months old. It was in Portugal. It was horrific. In hindsight now with two, I'd be thinking that we could have handled that way better.
How was it horrific with one kid who was not mobile?
I know, look, I appreciate what you're saying.
They were such happy free times.
Yeah,
you didn't even know.
Should have been the time of your life.
I know that. But you're only saying that from a position of having two kids who are mobile and understand, well, certainly one who's very mobile, understanding that how easy you have it when you've got a tiny baby. But you don't, that's your first child, you don't understand how easy you have it. We just made a bit of a, in hindsight, we did make a bit of a balls of it. We didn't go to the right place to stay for our needs. And it wasn't pleasurable. It was not a holiday. It was a trip abroad.
Yeah.
There are ways, and you definitely learn to avoid, the situations that can lead to a horrendous holiday. And we've picked up a lot of lessons over the years. Like, for example, if you're walking past a toy store, make sure that one of you is the toy side of the kid as you're walking in that direction so that they can't see the contents. Hence you avoid a tantrum because they're not being allowed to buy whatever toy they want at that particular moment in time. We learned that to our cost with a trip away a couple of years ago.
Right.
You make sure that you're fully loaded with all the snacks and toys and DVDs and iPads and laptops and phones and all the stuff downloaded that you can possibly put together. Distraction is absolutely key. All the time you need to be distracting them. And we went away in the summer for 10 days. And towards the end of the 10 days now, we were bloody glad the holiday was coming to an end. But generally, over the course of that week and a half, we just had a brilliant time.
Right.
So
what's the recommendation for your setup at the minute in terms of, we went to it was like a golf course. It was not a good idea. What do you do when you've got a couple of young kids?
Well, there needs to be a pool, there needs to be a beach. If at all possible, there's a kids club of some description. And
a playground.
A playground as well. Always have a playground.
That first Sunday when you're in a playground, you're like, there's lots of people here who are kind of my age and my situation.
That's why.
My life now.
One genius thing that we had, this is possibly illegal, but we had, when I say possibly, I mean definitely, we had about 15 to 20 movies, their favourite movies, on a USB stick.
Oh yeah.
And we literally just plugged the stick into the back of the TV in the room, in the bungalow we were staying in.
No jury in the world would convict you, Dave.
True.
What were you doing? It's going on holiday with the kids. Okay, that's fine. Pirating in that instance is completely legitimate.
I would assume my barrister will have picked a jury laced with people who have kids of that age, so they will never convict me. And that actually just was, whenever you have to go somewhere, something has to be packed or a meal has to be cooked, throw whatever movie it is they want on, give them a Capri Sun, let them at it. Also, give them whatever they want on the holiday. Now, you are sowing the seeds of disaster on your return because then they expect the status quo to remain when you do get home. And suddenly when bottles and sugar and chocolate and movies on demand and all that sort of good stuff is withdrawn cold turkey, well, there's going to be a little bit of a fallout, but you ride that out after a couple of days.
We've had kids get sick basically every time we've gone away, and have these kind of massive temperatures. The first time we ever went away, we just went to a hotel in Wicklow around, it was Easter time. It was a few days. I'm like, okay, we'll try this. And of course the sickness happened at 10:30 at night when the nearest pharmacy was 40 kilometres away in a taxi. Instead of just knocking down to reception and saying, could you please ask anybody in the hotel if they might have some Calpol / ibuprofen or whatever it was. But then, so we've been in a Spanish hospital. I can't even remember what that was for. It might have been for inhalers. We've been there was another
go somewhere where
to go to a hospital.
There's a 24-hour doctor surgery or hospital within a 5-minute walk.
Well,
that helps.
The difference is, sorry, the third one didn't go to hospital because it was the third one. We're like, this will be fine. Just lash everything.
You're probably
in,
late. You probably had a bag full of Nurofen and Calpol at the time.
Exactly. Like,
so never leave without all of that. Because that makes a massive difference as well. And just you have to kind of develop an ability just to roll with the punches as well. People get uptight about these little things, but there's absolutely no point. We went down to Dingle for a week in the summer. One of my mates was getting married. Dingle is not Malaga. Like, it rained for pretty much the entire week. The facilities in Dingle, when it's wet, are not what they are when it's sunny elsewhere. And it was a disaster of a week, really, in an awful lot of ways.
Stick with you?
We did, but like that only lasts forever. You can only do that every so often. So you have to pick the right place to go as well. You can get unlucky with the weather, but if you go on a couple of holidays, you will learn a huge amount to make the next one much easier. Now, I do have friends that just refuse to go anywhere near an airport until their kids are like 6, because they just don't have to deal with it. But
you can buy the fast thing for like 15 quid.
Fast track, yeah.
Totally worth it.
But the flight is tough when neither of them decide to sleep, or they decide not to sleep on the flight. So you're dealing with them in that confined space, particularly if you've got, say, an 18-month to 2-year-old who all our fellow wanted to do was literally just run up and down the gangway for the entire length of the flight.
I mean, I kind of think let them away.
Oh yeah, you do. But the problem is, like, plane lurches in any sort of a direction. Next of all, you've got like a split forehead, and then there's issues, and you'll be asked why the child was not restrained when the fasten seatbelt sign was on.
We did go on a medium haul flight this summer, actually, now that I think about it. And on the way out, he was totally fine. He was, 18 months maybe.
That's not like a long haul. That's a long haul.
12 hours?
Yeah, that's long haul.
Right, wow. Long haul, yeah. Was it? Yeah, it was about that, yeah.
That's madness.
Maybe a little bit less. On the way out, great child, sort of conked out, happy days, everyone's happy. On the way back was an absolute terror, and was wailing. And it was like, whatever time we took off, it was like 1 o'clock over there to come back. So when people get on the flight, they're going to sleep pretty much straight away. And he was wailing. Yeah. And like, actually, it reminds me a little bit of Nathan's experience the other week with the woman who was telling him that his child was hungry. We had like a very helpful air host, whatever the correct terminology is, a steward, who was, to be fair, a well-intentioned, lovely woman who had her own kids and was obviously had expertise in the area, but like doesn't know our child. So it's like, obviously telling you, oh, well, this is what you need to do, or this is what's wrong. And you're like, yeah, fucking leave us alone. We understand the child is wailing. We're trying to make him stop.
You feel so bad for the people who were seated around you.
Oh, look, sure, they
destroyed their flight.
Whatever number of people on the flight are having that. Well, these are really bad parents. But you make your ease with that.
Like, for the listener, the pod subscriber that contacted us, we should. You know, I'm happy to put a list together from my own experiences. If you're going abroad, not 12 hours away. I'm talking
3.5.
Spain, max. Italy, Portugal.
Yeah.
Really, that's it. Maybe the south of France. There's a list of what the stuff that you absolutely have to bring, and the rules have to be relaxed for the week that you're away.
I have to say, I love your general approach to the rules. The rules seem like I imagine somewhere in your house you've got like a little book of rules where it's like, hang on a second, I need to consult the rules.
It's not a heavily regimented, militarised existence that my children lead. But, you know, there are rules around TV. There are rules around screens.
What point do you introduce the rules?
Like in the last 2 weeks.
Hang on a second. You arbitrarily decide them on a case-by-case basis. and they're prone to change if I change my fucking mind.
Well, we had to put a 6 p.m. rule on screens in place.
Right, okay.
Because it got to the point where they were eating their breakfast, lunch and dinner in front of a screen. And I was thinking, this is just not good for anybody. This does not do their development, their long-term health any good. And yeah, bar a couple of days of resistance, it's incredible how quickly they form a habit.
Yeah.
And it's a 6 p.m. to 7:30 screen rule. And all screens bar the TV screen have been ruled out as well.
Yeah.
They want to watch something on the iPad, you Chromecast it. And the TV's shut down at 7:30 every night, no matter what the circumstances are. And they take to it really quickly. But if you're on holidays, You give them the TV
That's
if
fine.
and when they want it. Because the chances are you need the TV
yeah.
to get some stuff done. Like the amount of time it takes to pack a bag for the beach that day, to get the sandwiches together, to get everything. It takes ages.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're hanging out of you when you're trying to do it, no one's going to get anywhere. Tempers will fray, and pretty soon you'll start thinking this is the worst holiday of all time.
It's true. You get up at 9 o'clock on your holidays because it's a bit later, and you get to the beach by 12 o'clock. And you're like, that was successful. It's now time for another meal. We've got about an hour and a half here before it's time to go because it's actually too hot. That's your experience of holidays. And then you get back and you have to sit inside for 3 hours because it's too hot. Oh, God.
There's the 2-year-old eating his 4th mouthful of sand. It's going to be an awkward dump for him in the morning.
But it's not the worst thing he's eaten on this holiday. Jonathan O'Connell on Twitter says, success story this year. This is mad. We took our 3, 9, 7 and 1 to Boston. Plenty to do there for kids at modest cost. Renting an apartment is the key. Hotels are the enemy, especially as most won't allow 5 in a room. #Dadcast. The only time we've had a good hotel experience is when you get interlocking rooms where you can kind of close their
Never
door.
sleep in the same room as your kids. Like, that is just, if you go on holidays and do that, you're just asking for trouble. No one has any privacy. Every little toss and turn that your kids make, every little yelp, every movement, you're woken up. You might as well just be like lying on the floor in the bloody living room.
that's not a holiday at all. But definitely self-catering in an apartment or anything is like, it's harder to find. It's like a lot of searching on the internet to see, is this place actually as good as it says? Are those pictures real? Are the reviews not just his mates going, this is amazing, and when you get there, they're just going to take your money? Because there's a fair bit of that goes on, obviously, and you're not arriving at a hotel that's built that you can look at the TripAdvisor stuff at, but definitely way more rewarding when you get there and you're like, oh, a kitchen and a fridge that I have like full access to, and I can go and spend 20 quid in the supermarket around the corner and we're stocked for everything that we need that might make a difference. Have you ever gone camping? Graham O'Keefe says, camping in France is amazing, not cheap though, 10 nights only. You'd need Ronaldo-esque fitness levels to survive 2 weeks with young kids. Camping is something that friends and family have done and have raved about, but that I'm a bit like, I don't know about this.
As in an actual tent?
No, so it's a
mobile home.
Mobile home in France.
So that's not really camping, is it?
But it's called camping. They're called camps. Like,
we were at a camp in the summer, but it was a bungalow.
Exactly, exactly the same thing.
It was a solid structure.
That's not...
We did not call it camping.
But it's called a camp, isn't it?
Well, I guess it's a camp in that there are temporary structures there. Does that make it a camp?
Yes, this is exactly what we're talking about.
Okay, right. But the structure we were in was a permanent structure. We're splitting hairs here.
We are. You are.
But whether it's a mobile home...
don't sleep in the same room as your children rule would not survive a tent.
Not a tent.
No tent.
Whether it's a mobile home or it's a bungalow or whatever it is. Yeah, exactly. That definitely works. As long as there's an extra room for them and they've got somewhere where they can run around, which is not really the sort of thing you find in a hotel.
You came back raving about the...
Yeah, we went to Bella Italia in Lake Garda, and we just couldn't speak highly enough of it. It's an amazing place, full of swimming pools, full of water slides, children's camps, bouncy castle centre. You can head down to the lake, you can head into the town, everything's within walking distance. There are 3 or 4 restaurants on the campsite, there are 3 or 4 bars, you can get takeaway, this, that and the other. Like, everything is there. Plus, there's a garden in front of the bungalow and you can keep one eye on them and one eye on your beer as they like roam and just knock themselves out, make themselves as tired as possible by the time you get to the evening time, and everyone sleeps great, and it is the way to do it. I have a hotel story involving myself as a kid. Family brought away. There was only 2 of us at the time, so my sister I don't think had arrived on the scene at that point. And
with the youngest. This is your happiest time of life.
At one stage I was basically wandering around the bar in my pyjamas, asking everybody were they my parents.
Jesus Christ.
That is not what you want to happen on your holiday.
And what happened? How come you didn't recognize?
I'd managed to just stray, open the door, and off I
Matt
went.
is thrilled you're telling this story. Thrilled.
There was no fault on my parents.
What age were you?
I'd say I was 4.
Yeah, all right.
There was no fault attached to my parents. This was just me being a kid and managing to like make an escape.
Oh, I found my 2-year-old working the key finally. He like had the key in the door the other day, in the front door, and like he's a runner. So
you get a latch on that door. That's
take the key out.
Top of the door.
you take the key out.
Lock
you
it.
put the key away. You lock it. He comes along, gets the key, and now can unlock it.
Yeah,
He's got that. It's like the Velociraptor in the first Jurassic Park.
Get a code. Put it in a coded safe. Something, I don't know, out of reach.
What?
Put it somewhere out of reach.
What if there's a fire and you have to get out?
That's fair
What was the
point.
code? Was it your mother's birthday or was it mine?
That's fair,
1,
fair
2,
point.
3, 4.
We
I
had
believe.
door opening issues and we got a a latch on the
top.
At the top.
Oh, yeah, good call.
So they need the tallest stool in the house to get there.
Yeah. Well, that's not.
Plus means you never have to actually
That's just
lock
a new
the door.
challenge.
You don't have to lock the door. It's there, ready to rock.
Okay. That's your end of your stories. We
That's the
believe
end of
camping
mine.
is the right
Yes.
thing to do.
Camping, definitely way to
Fair
go.
play to taking the kids to Boston. That's unbelievably brave. And then the last one that I just wanted to bring up was Colm Kilroy tweeted us and tweeted you, Dave. Try to get through this one without shedding a few tears. It was the Late Late Show toy show. You were away. Did you feel any guilt at the Philadelphia to round that all off? It was like the best trip of your life.
No, in fairness, my wife was amazing. I did get the sense that, the edges were starting to fray towards the end. Like my last WhatsApp video call was made in the lobby of the hotel about half an hour before we got on the bus to the airport to fly home. And at that stage, my return was timely.
Right.
But up before that, everything seemed to be going great. The lads were as good as gold. And I didn't feel guilty at all. Like, why would you?
Did you miss them?
Oh yeah, definitely. Particularly once you start to learn that they are missing you. Part of you wants them to really miss you, but the other party doesn't want them to be upset while you're away.
No.
One
Don't
morning.
tell me. Tell me when I get home.
That's right. They're great. They're great fun. Not acting up at all.
I was told that one morning on the way to school, Nicky was asked when is he home, and because I really miss him, or will Daddy be in the house when I wake up tomorrow morning? Those kind of questions. So they're kind of hard to hear, but I was having a really nice time.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have this craft beer.
Bothered me for about 30 seconds and then I just got up and enjoyed myself.
So look,
You had a bit of a cry as well when you were
On the plane on the way over.
it's like the weekly McIntyre cry update.
talking about there, but like real smugly about all the lessons we've learned and various holidays we've gone on. I'm not learning my lessons on the content that I'm viewing on flights. I watched About Time. He hasn't seen it. Have you seen it?
No.
Rachel McAdams and Donald Gleeson, and it involves time travel. It's a bit fantastical, but
Somebody dies. He's dead.
no, the dad is on his. He's heading into his final days. He's suffering from cancer, and I'm going. Why did I watch this? Here we go again, and your eyes start welling up.
All the like grizzled GA acts sitting around going, Dave is off again.
So yeah, it was definitely the wrong thing to watch. But you were crying during the toy show.
Like you'd want to have a heart of stone not to have cried during the toy show. I was 100% bawling, but I did then, and I thought, it's an isolated thing. It was a pretty bloody heart-rending story anyway. And then I was watching I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here the other night. I also started crying, and I was like, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. They were reading letters. They got letters from home.
All right.
And Harry Redknapp had Sandra was on to him, and she was like, Harry, I really miss you. You're the light of my life. I'm like, Sandra, don't do it to me. Too much. These people, none of the others whom I know at all were reading letters from home, and I was like a child.
Yeah, I cried on the
All
way
of
home
them?
as well.
I was just a general sort of...
You cried a Celebrity.
No, I cried on the way over to Philly on the way home as well. Yeah, just a movie.
All right. Okay.
This one was called The Judge. Paul Newman and Robert Downey Jr. And at the very start of the movie, the judge's wife has just passed away, and he's talking about how much she meant to him, and I'm just going, oh my God, here we go again.
You're not even at that point. At the very
Pass the
start of the movie,
tissues.
you're not even engaged in the characters or have any emotion.
It's just right there under the surface, and it'll just rear its ugly head at the.
Well, I hope this
Shortest
isn't for
of
me.
notice.
This isn't the start of something, because
It is. This your first experience of it, and it's just only going to get worse.
I find it
Especially
embarrassing.
now that you've got a baby girl in the house.
I found. So it was just me and my wife there, and I found it I was embarrassed by the fact that I was crying.
You shouldn't be.
But I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Why am I crying?
You're just in touch with your emotions.
Yeah, here's the thing. It doesn't
harm in that.
actually matter.
Do you just start sobbing and
No, I don't allow it to degenerate into sobbing.
Because who knows what it means then. At that point, you're like, everything else that you want to have a good cry about, you're like, I have the cover of this film to allow me to go, it's just the film, whereas actually it's the rest of my life
all
falling
comes out
apart
then.
in the
the opening
background.
credits? It was like, no.
No, the eyes well up. The eyes
You're
are
not
full of
actually,
tears.
You're not sort of
But I don't.
gyrating in the seat.
I don't allow it to even get to the point where the tears are running down my face. I kind of grab a tissue and dry my eyes.
And if somebody spoke to you, though, it would be that's the waterworks. It's like, Dave, are you all right?
They've only just got to know each other. You see, you're not really upset. Like, you're not actually upset.
That's true, yeah.
You're just sad in that one moment.
But clearly, you need to release something. Something is happening. Like, your body's going, here, come on, let's get rid of this. Come on.
Well,
come
it's
on.
just, no,
Let
it's
it go.
just
Let
a
it out.
heightened sense of
Your
empathy.
body's rubbing your back and saying,
Heightened
come
sense
on.
of empathy.
that
It's all
most
right.
parents feel because you're now responsible for the very well-being of another person.
That makes total sense.
So, there was, when you were just looking after yourself or maybe your missus, you didn't really need to have a huge amount of compassion and empathy for other people. Plus, you don't really understand what other people are going through. Now you understand, like you said, you see the mother who's desperately trying to fend off 3 of her kids who have just gone wild. You would have absolutely no sympathy or compassion or empathy for that situation in the
don't do
past.
that.
Now you look at them and go, I feel so sorry for that person. I wish there was something I could do to help them.
On that note, one last, we're going to leave you with this. Owen Casey tweeted in to say, loving the pod, lads. Got home today and the wife is fuming. She was in Dundrum with her 3-month-old girl and she's crying. Somehow a wagon comes up. Oh, she must be hungry. The missus probably told her to F off, in her head only, sadly. Good to know it's not just us who gets this treatment. It turns out everybody gets this treatment. But, I mean, they mean well. They mean well.
So Owen, was it?
Yeah.
The phrase is fuck off, Owen. Feel free to say it. It's fine.
I was tweeted during the week a photo of a guy in a car park, and he had taken a photo of somebody parked in a child parent space.
Oh, yeah, it was a motorbike.
Motorbike.
It was a motorbike. Stephen Curran says, arsehole of the week goes to this guy. Is this a joke? And there's an actual motorbike parked in the child parent place. Now, for me, that should be an arrestable offence. The cops should be called and they should be waiting for him when he comes out of the store.
It's
If only
not
this
some,
was a visual medium and we could have planned this and showed it to you. I mean, who knew?
Unless it's some sort of a medical emergency or something, and this is
Yeah.
potentially not.
Unlikely. I mean, there's a possibility that the kid is on the back of the motorbike. But in that case, do you call the cops anyway?
I think you do.
It could be one of those, blood transfusion service motorbikes,
see.
and the rider of the bike is actually in the store going through a blood transfusion
there you
as
go.
we speak.
There you go.
But unlikely, I would have
Unlikely.
thought.
Episode 11 is in the books. Thanks very much for being part of this. You can obviously subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Apparently it's tricky enough on Podcast Republic, so maybe move over to, we're on Spotify. We're also on Audio Boom and the podcast app on Apple, which used to be iTunes, but now is something else that I can't keep up with because, I've got an happy brain. You can also get us on the website, and you can subscribe to our Facebook page, and we're on Twitter as well, at DadcastPod. Just use the hashtag Dadcast to get your complaints, and you can email anything that you want us to talk about, dadcast@offtheball.com. We'll see you next week. Good luck.